Let's do something before I start. Just you listen. Do dun 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 dun. I don't see you reacting. Do do dun 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 dun. Anybody here knows what it is? Does anybody here know what it is? Just show me your hand if you do. Okay. That's right. It looks like some people in my generation are here. So that was the signature tune for Radio Nigeria that I learned in the 50s and the 60s, probably. And we used to sing with it. Ziki bodogu, odogu kobo. Olu bodo woro, onyebu beze. You know, in those days, we kids, we drank cow and gate. Cow and gate. That was our milk in the 50s. In the 60s, they drank lactogen. In the 80s, they were drinking SMA Gold. And in the 90s, probably. I don't know what they take now, what babies take now. Maybe you young mothers here could tell me. But all I'm saying is that since you understand my generation, I believe I have made a case to give my talk sitting down, not standing. Thank you. So, the theme of the TED Talk is Kedu. When you hear Kedu, when I hear it, it takes me home. It takes me home to my homeland, Igbo land. Kedu is not just a greeting. It's not a casual hello. It is a profound question. It asks, how are you? How is your family? How is life treating you? But at its very core, Kedu means something deeper. It asks the question, what is the state of things in your world? Most times people simply answer like he told us before, Odemma, I'm fine. All is well. But is all really well? For me, Kedu has always been an invitation to look inwards, to ask, who am I? Where am I coming from? Where am I going to? Who else is on this journey with me? And what kind of path am I living for those that are coming after me? That, to me, is the essence of Kedu. In 1978, when I started law practice, the honest answer to this question, Kedu, for many women in the profession was, nah, it is hard though. I cannot cope. My husband won't let me. My children are too young. Or worse still, you get the defeatist answer from some. We are overlooked, we women, we are overlooked. There is a ceiling there, a steel ceiling, and I cannot break through. Well, for me it was different. When I went into law practice in Enugu, there were just 3 other women, plus myself, 4. Mrs. Martina Okoye, who was my history teacher in Queen's School, Fumi Ofodile, who later became a judge in Anambra State, and Mrs. Offaih, a formidable woman, who at that time had her own law practice. Then myself, I came along. And at that time, people will ask me, half jokingly, half seriously, why would any woman with a home to run and children to tend go into private law practice? Why won't she just go pick a job in the ministry? Why? Or even become a magistrate. It was popular then because you just sit in the office, do work 8 to 4, and you go home. Well, me, I didn't take any of those options. I went head-on into private law practice, and I stayed put till today. At that time, of course, I will get these questions like one of our friends, I remember one of my colleagues, Chris Chime, may he rest in peace, he asked me, but Justina, do you think you can cope? Can you manage? What happens to your house? Who cooks soup for your husband? I thought that was a very lame question because I cook my soup, I make my stew, I feed my children. I still cook soup up till now, okay? Well, very silly, wasn't it? Although I made my choice, I am aware and I can bear witness to the challenges women face in the profession. But one thing that I have never condoned was either laziness or lack of drive. You have to work hard. You don't just throw up your arms and complain. Yes, there were ceilings, but I refused to let them define or deter me. I'll tell you a bit about me. You see, I grew up in a home that built my backbone. I had a missionary teacher and a catechist for a father, a firm, intelligent, and wise woman for a mother, and an army of 6 brothers. 6. And I am in between them, last but one. These brothers were steeped deep in moral discipline and virtues. And one of them, I must mention, is called Mike. Professor Michael Uwezoke Ileje. He's here. Mike, could you stand up and take a bow, please? That's Mike for you. Growing up with Mike and my other brothers was a unique experience. He is my immediate elder brother, and he would tell anyone who cared to listen that he brought me up by hand. And you might wonder what that means. So, in my home, I was not treated differently. I did my chores and the boys did theirs. I have another brother who is here, Professor Amechi Francis Ileje. He's an architect. We call him Cinco. Cinco, can you get up and take a bow, please? Thank you. So now Cinco was the youngest of us all. And in my house, washing plates after meal was the job of the youngest. But Cinco never liked to wash plates. He would prefer to play football or make baskets. And when he didn't wash plates, then it was me washing it. And I wasn't going to take it. I'll go fight him back from football to the dishes, and he would do it. In fact, the last fight we had was in 1969 during the Civil War, where he would refuse to wash plates, and I wasn't going to take it. So now try and picture me between Mike and Cinco. That's where I grew up. Anyway, my other 4 older brothers also brought me up by hand in very different and very interesting ways, but that's a story for another day. I was not pitied or pampered, but I was loved, trained, and expected to excel in all respects. Remember, my father was a teacher, and for him, 85% in any subject is the minimum pass mark. If you scored anything less, you have failed. So I grew up believing that I could. I was held up to the same standards of excellence and discipline as my brothers. And I know that some of you will now start thinking that I grew up a tomboy. No. Don't forget that my mother was there, not under her watch. There was no question of an only girl becoming a tomboy. It didn't happen. Today, with that background, giving you a peep to how I grew up, I sit before you as a lawyer. But I have a confession to make. I never planned to be a lawyer. I was never wanting to be a lawyer, actually. In my secondary school days, we had this drama club. I was a member of it. And we toured the whole of Nigeria performing plays and winning first prizes at National Festival of the Art. So I was very strongly drawn to the theater arts. And I wanted to be an actress. But in those days, remember I come from the cow and gate generation, okay? In those days, theater art was not seen as a profession in Nigeria. In fact, entertainment was not an industry at all. It was not until this movie, Living in Bondage. You remember Living in Bondage? It was after Living in Bondage that actors in Nigeria began to gain some sort of respect. Sometimes I sit down and wonder, wow, if I had gone into theater arts, I could have played the role of Merit or Caroline in that movie. Well, I had left that. I never wanted to be a lawyer. But then one random day, I went with my brother, one of my big brothers, Sir Victor Ileje, to the High Court in Enugu to get an affidavit done. Something about the lawyers there, in their robes, their wig and gown, something about the courtroom atmosphere, the order, the logic, the eloquence, it drew me in completely. I fell in love with law. It was love at first sight. And I immediately knew that that was where I belonged. At that time, I had a very good friend and classmate, the Honorable Justice Iyom A. She retired as the Chief Judge of Anambra State. Her father was a great practicing lawyer who became Attorney General of the then East Central State and later a judge of the old Anambra State. So EJ had already a law family background. I didn't. Nobody in my family was a lawyer. My newly found passion for law aligned very well with her enthusiasm and exposure. So we started sharing our dreams of becoming lawyers. We went through a lot of ordeal, studying together. After writing our entrance examination into the University of Nigeria, our names didn't come out. We were made to rewrite the exam because our performance in the first one was deemed too good and too in sync to have ruled out the possibility of some malpractice. But then, in the receipt examination, which was strictly invigilated by 4 lecturers to 2 candidates in a big hall, we proved them all wrong. And today, here we are, 2 women, successful lawyers. She retired as a chief judge, and I am here as a senior advocate of Nigeria, excelling in our choices. Now, let me say this. Law gave me a voice. It gave me words. It gave me structure and the right to stand in a courtroom and be heard. It was my suit of armor. But soon I realized that voice alone was not enough. Courage is needed. Courage makes your voice to echo beyond the courtroom. Courage is what you need when you are the only woman in a room. And I've been in such situations many times. Courage is what amplifies your voice beyond the courtroom. So when I was appointed Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice of Enugu State in 1994, I was the only woman in an all-male state executive council under a military regime at a time when the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was suspended, together with all the rights, including the rights of women. I knew then that courage would be my daily companion in that job. On the day we were sworn in, the military administrator, military governor, was addressing the new ESCO. And one of the things he said is that, well, ladies and gentlemen, in this job, you have to defend the indefensible. It struck me. And I turned to Dr. Nachetam that was sitting beside me. I said, what is he talking about? What is he saying? Defending the indefensible. I said, well, I don't know. We wait and see. And soon enough, we saw. One day, we were in the ESCO hall for a meeting, and the chief security officer dragged in a man that was thoroughly beaten and wounded. He had stolen high-tension cables. And at that time, the standing order, military order, was shoot at sight. As soon as they brought the man in, the military governor looked at him and said, waste him. I was shocked. I got up and I said, no, Your Excellency, you cannot shoot him. You don't kill him. If he is caught committing an offense, he needs to be tried. If he is found guilty, he will face the consequences. The other commissioners, all males, were nudging me and saying, Madam, you're talking to a soldier. What do you know? Are you mad? I said, I'm not mad. You can't shoot him. The governor looked at me and said, Madam, this man was caught red-handed cutting cables. Why won't he be shot? I said, you have to try him before you kill him. He said, okay. CSO, take him to the military hospital in 82 Div. We will try him. Next EXCO meeting, as soon as we sat down, the governor said, Madam, have you seen? That criminal has escaped. Well, whether he escaped or they wasted him, I don't know. But then I said, yes, Your Excellency, I have no regrets for my position. Because the law says it is better for 9 criminals to escape than for 1 innocent person to be punished. So the advice I gave you was the proper advice that I should give. Everybody was saying, Madam, you are looking for trouble. This is a soldier, and you are talking like this. Well, that was courage. I knew that courage was going to be my daily companion, and it was. Anyway, that gone. People, especially young women, often ask me, how did you manage it all? Wife, mother, lawyer, and still became a senior advocate of Nigeria. And I tell them quite honestly, listen, I didn't start off chasing any rank or any titles or any position. I was just doing my work, which I loved doing, and doing it well. I never wanted to become anything. I was content with being a good lawyer. So my position today is simply a testimony of God's grace, the unflinching support of my family, and the mentorship of Chief Anthony Okoye-Mobo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who I call my father in the law profession. He took me in raw from the law school, guided and formed me into a seasoned and fearless law practitioner. He never gave me the chance to feel different or less able than any other lawyer in practice, male or female. He taught me meticulously and gave me a full blank check to grow to my fullest capacity. He treated me like his daughter and always showed how pleased he was whenever I did very well. He mentored me to maturity. May God continue to keep and bless him. I cannot tell you the story of my career without talking about my darling husband, Dr. Evaristus Chukwudi Offiah. He's here. Daddy, please, can you stand and take a bow? Please. Thank you. Thank you. That's my knight in shining armor. You know, in 1989, while I was chairing a local government election petition tribunal in Onitsha, I nearly got shot. I had finished sitting that Friday afternoon and was stepping into my car to return to Enugu for the weekend. I heard a gunshot. Immediately, my police orderly, Corporal Dennis Ogadogu, he just pushed me aside and the bullet whizzed past my ear. We immediately jumped into the car and zoomed off with gunshots trailing after us. That day, God used Corporal Dennis Ogadogu to save my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here today. But guess what? This was on a Friday. On Monday, I returned to the same court and continued sitting. That was my life as a private legal practitioner. None of these experiences deterred me because for me, law was not just a job. It was service. Service primarily to God and to people. In my law firm, Obra Legal, we live and work by some principles. We work for service, for people, for growth, our own growth and the growth of others around us. We work for joy. We work for excellence, for integrity, and for honor. But most importantly, we work for God. And having said all this, you have a little picture, just a brief picture of my life as a woman in private legal practice. So you will probably now ask me, how did you become senior advocate of Nigeria? Remember I told you I wasn't going to take any ranks or to become anything. My mentor, Chief Mobo, told me to apply, and I did. That was just it. The first 2 times I didn't get through, but the third time in 2003, I succeeded. The calls and congratulatory messages that I received were wonderful and elating. The celebration was historic. I had become a senior advocate of Nigeria, the first and only female senior advocate of Nigeria from the entire Igbo land, the southeast, and every other part of the country except the west. Hold it. But my most profound feeling at that time was not pride. It was a sense of responsibility. I remember during the ceremonies, a reporter asked me, Madam, how does it feel being the first and only female senior advocate of Nigeria east of the Niger? My answer was very simple. I am happy to be the first, but not happy to be the only. Because being first is never about personal glory. It is about changing what others believe is possible. All of a sudden, I found that young girls in Enugu, Anambra, across the southeast, and many other places could now say to themselves, if she could, I can. If she could make it, I can make it. I felt the weight of that responsibility. Just the same way Chief Folanke Sholanke SAN, the very first female senior advocate of Nigeria in the whole country, the way she must have felt when she broke the glass ceiling decades before me. Each of us here, we build on another's foundation. As you can guess, many young aspiring female lawyers, including this morning, and lawyers-to-be, they come asking me, but ma'am, how did you manage to make it? Being a wife, raising a family of 6 wonderful children, my children are wonderful children, male and female, and still running a successful law practice. Well, usually after some long or maybe short words of encouragement to them, I will always summarize my story by telling them that I never made my shopping lists in the office or wrote pleadings and briefs of argument in my home. Right from the beginning, I drew a clear distinction between my roles at home and at work. Each role got its fair share of my time and attention, but in the right places. For me, being the first is not a destination. It is just the beginning. Each ceiling you break becomes a floor for someone else to stand taller. In the course of my career, I have mentored many lawyers, men and women, including another senior advocate of Nigeria, Chief Ikechukwu Onoma SAN, now managing partner of my law firm, Obra Legal. Ike, could you stand up and take a bow, please? Please, please. And happy birthday. Today is his birthday. Also, many others like judges, SANs, governors, federal ministers, traditional rulers, etc., they have passed through my guidance. I received freely. I have given freely. And I'll continue to give. That is why in my firm now, we started Obra Foundation. A foundation that sets out to add value to the legal profession and to mentor the next generation through internship, externship, and mentorship programs. We have had many interns and mentees from both within and outside Nigeria as beneficiaries of the programs of Obra Foundation. Now, getting back to being the first female senior advocate, I'll lead you to some statistics. At the moment, there are only about 40 female senior advocates of Nigeria in the entire country. And 19 of them are from the southeast. You would want to compare this figure with the 916 male senior advocates of Nigeria. You agree that this is a rather unfair and disproportionate ratio. So you see, there is still work to be done. There is still a lot of room beyond the ceiling. Being the first is an honor, yes, but it is not a trophy to polish and gloat over. It carries a duty. You don't crash the glass ceiling and stay standing on the rubbles. You sweep out the glass to build the staircase, to make the path wider and easier for those coming behind you. This, to me, is the true meaning of success. My titles, and I have quite a couple of them. My titles as wife, mother, attorney general, senior advocate of Nigeria, Iyom, and even grandma. I have some grandchildren, but 7 of them now, beautiful kids. These titles are just milestones. They are not destinations. They are just milestones. The actual destination is a world where no other woman would have to struggle to become the first again. The legacy is the bridge itself, strong and wide, ready to carry the weight of generations of dreams. It is making the ground we stand on higher than we met it because of the bridges we have built. That is what I want everyone here to go away with from this encounter. Build bridges, make staircases, make the path wider and easier for those coming after you. Now, turning back to the theme of this talk. When next you see someone and you ask him or her, Kedu, ask this question with deep understanding and purpose, knowing that the question carries a weight. It carries the responsibility to care, responsibility to listen, to help others, to lift others up, to build bridges so that others can cross with greater ease. And now, as I'm ending, I ask, Kedu, what is the state of things in your world? What bridges are you building so that others can rise after you? Thank you.